Good afternoon. My name is Del Rodriguez, and this is Flabonga Monthrothacube. And with me today, I've got co-host
Tony Stevenson
and our awesome guest,
Owen Burley.
Hey, Owen. Thanks for coming.
No, thanks for having me. Looking forward to it. I'm really interested in the name of this not a podcast, whatever you want to call it.
State of mind.
State of mind. It's a state of mind.
State of mind. State of mind. That's right.
It means absolutely nothing. A good friend of mine, Nick, was on the early show before I had any branding or name. And I was like, hey, man, what should I call it? And because he's awesome, and with his Mancunian accent, which I'm not going to try and do, he went, Flabonga Monthrothacube. And I went, the hell does that mean, bro? And he went, don't know, man, just made it up. And only his brain could have done that. So that's the name
Love
of the
it.
show.
It's as good a name as any.
Yeah, if you Google it, the closest thing you get, no joke, the word Flabonga or Flabongo is occasionally used in Australia, and it's to do with a drinking game, obviously, Australia, where you drink, like, you know, like the plastic lawn ornament flamingos. Apparently, if you break the neck off of that and then pour your beer into that and drink from that, that's a flabonga or flabongo, something like that. That's the closest real life word to it.
Better than shoe, right? The famous shoey.
Do you know what? We're actually flamingo is actually the color and the brand sort of animal, if you like, for one of our products. And we've been looking around at things. You know how you get little giveaways at events and that sort of thing. Maybe that's the answer. Just the empty head of a flamingo to down shots from.
I mean, that could happen in the evening, the after party type rod. I think I was going to say that flamingo would set you out like kind of on your own. But my understanding is that Laura Taylor, formerly of Powered by Cloud, her consultancy is called Pink Flamingo, I believe.
Possibly.
Oh, is it? Yeah, I believe so. Yeah, I believe so. Maybe. I think I've got that right. I'm pretty sure it's Flamingo something. If it's not, and Laura, if you're watching, I don't know, Laura, but if you are watching, I apologise if I've just butchered the name of your consultancy. So I hope
she's not watching. She's busy doing work.
I know she's not.
No one is watching this, man. It's lunchtime. People are either eating or doing their work. It's only us three reprobates.
Absolutely.
They're not doing work right now and doing this. Jumping into the comments real quick. We've got long time watcher Marcus Batson. Marcus,
friend of the show.
Yeah,
never misses, does he?
Sam Green. It means absolutely nothing, and yet it means everything. Flabonga Monthrothacube. Hard to say, but means everything.
I'm never going to be able to say that.
Do you want to give it a try?
Absolutely not. No.
Pretty please.
That's a one-way ticket to public humiliation, that is.
I had to do it as part of my probation when I became co-host. And also, Dale, the interesting fact is that it's spelt wrong in the graphics as well, isn't it? Is that right?
It is spelt wrong in the graphics, yes. The Monthrothacube has got the like THE in it. It should be a I know, very pedantic for a made-up word. Anyway, enough about the name of the show, enough about me talking. Please, Owen, could you explain, you already given us your name, but who you are, what you do, and why you do it?
Sure, yeah. So I'm one of the co-founders at Coachbar. For those of you watching who haven't heard of Coachbar, we've got a couple of different products in the market at the moment. Ultimately, Coachbar is an organization where sort of, I think our North Star, if you like, is to help businesses to find technology, the right technology, and have it implemented correctly the first time around. I think the way that we're approaching it is different. We're not tech advisors. We're not consultants. We're trying to create tools that enable software providers and tech advisors and consultants to do what they do, but do it at scale, basically. Because one of the big problems we identified early days was that there's just not enough smart tech advisors out there to service all of the businesses that really need that help. And I think, that's really a passion of all of ours as co-founders, is to try and help businesses find the right tech and get it implemented.
Why is it called Coachbar?
It's interesting. We right at the beginning, so the model of Coachbar and how we deliver services and product has evolved over the last couple of years to what it is today. When we first started out, we liked the idea of this concept of a bunch of like quite an informal process of coaches, tech advisors, consultants meeting at a bar and informally having a conversation around advisory with businesses, and to I think, overcome a lot of the maybe some of the negative connotations around tech advisory, and that it's expensive, and it's a cost
Well, it's
center
super
rather than
expensive.
an
I charge a bomb
investment.
for my advice. It's crazy.
Well, it's expensive, but
I'm joking.
it's one of those things, isn't it? That's the perception of a lot of businesses out there, is that it's more importantly that it's a cost center, not an investment, and therefore it's maybe less valuable or whatever else. So, yeah, I mean, Coach Bar came from that kind of concept, that it's people just gathering around the bar, having a chat and learning more.
That's cool. That's very cool. Tony, would you mind doing the coffee question?
Oh yeah, we can start with that. That's good.
Yeah.
I was watching. There's this guy on Instagram called the Coupon Kid. It was just a slight segue before we get into the coffee question, and he was interviewing Keir Starmer, and I just loved his questioning. So he asked him two questions, one after the other, and the first one was basically about fiscal drag and about the personal allowance not going up and how that was affecting people in low incomes and all that sort of stuff. And then Keir Starmer gave like a fine answer to that question, and they were going to change it in 2027, and they brought that forward and all that kind of stuff. And then like you see him considering things, and then he just went, "Have you ever eaten Nando's?" Which I just thought was such a great question, and just felt like it was really in our spirit of things. So this question we've asked to a bunch of guests, not every single one of them, but most of them. This is my silly question, which is like, if we can all agree that sort of, firstly, do you drink coffee is the first question. So if you don't drink coffee, then it's kind of a pointless question.
Well, I like coffee, but I can't drink it anymore because I can't have caffeinated drinks. So I'm a decaf tea drinker. But I must admit, I have the occasional coffee when I'm cheating my heart.
Okay. Right, but a coffee lover at heart, so we will go with this. So if we can all agree that like your local artisan coffee shop is like, that's A1 grade that we always want to aim for, right? If you're stuck in a world of chain generica with the large coffee chains, and you've got options to go and like kind of frequent any of those large coffee chains, or any that you might want to avoid, like what's your top pick, and what's the one that you are you putting in the bin?
Sorry, explain that to me again. Ask that question again.
So if you have to choose between the big coffee chains, so your Starbucks, your Costas, your Neros, your other coffee chains are available, what is your favorite big coffee chain, and what is the one that you will always avoid if you can?
I think the answer to this question is actually the same place. So my favorite is Starbucks. But because they're extortionately expensive, I tend to try to avoid it. So it's 2 for 1.
See, my favorite one is Starbucks as well, but we've had a lot of hate for the Bucks on this show. Dale, yeah. Interesting, isn't it? So mine, like getting the bin, is Costa. I just want absolutely nothing to do with Costa, predominantly because their coffees are the wrong sizes. So like I order a flat white because I want the flat white size of coffee, which is a standard 8-ounce coffee, right? But theirs is twice the size because they think that that's good. So Kirsty Mitchell reliably informs me that if you order a cortado, then you get a flat white. So I might have to retry that at some point.
I'm always put off by Costa as well, because they have those Costa machines where, in garages and whatever, where you can go and get yourself a cheeky coffee, and it's never quite as good, and it kind of gives them a bad rap, I think, than from a proper fresh sort of barista.
That's it.
Pret is my least favorite.
Really?
Well, second to Starbucks. Starbucks least favorite, then Pret.
Wow. Ours are like the flip. I tell you what is good value for money coffee though, McDonald's.
Surprisingly good.
Very good value for money, because it's like a third of the price of Starbucks. So, and
it's okay coffee. It's not terrible.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah.
I tend to spend more time drinking decaf Tesco value tea bags. So I'm hardly the hot drink connoisseur, but yeah.
If it's not too much of a personal question, why no decaf? Why no caffeine? Sorry.
It's not a personal question, no. So I struggle with heart palpitations. I have them for quite a long time, and I went to the doctors and had a look at heart scans and everything else. And apparently, I've got a valve that's probably not as great as it should be. It's okay for the time being, but in the future, it might give me problems. And one of the things that makes me get very fluttery and it's very annoying is caffeinated drinks, and the other two things being nicotine and alcohol. So I tend not to have much of any of the three.
Cool. Thank you for explaining. Appreciate it. We should probably ask you some business type questions at first, because this is a business podcast on a business platform, and we're all business people doing business things. I said business a lot. Okay, so you explained that CoachBar is kind of the bridge between like advisory, systems advice, IT, and kind of changing the perception, right? The kind of ROI for tech advisory, because it seems expensive. How does CoachBar go about doing this?
Oh, do you know, I could talk for about an hour on this, but I'm going to try and slim it down as much as I can.
I'll
We
just
have two products.
Go deep. Go deep.
Go deep. No, seriously, go three boots.
So there are two approaches that we have. The first is for software providers. One of the things that we felt was needed was a really good way for software providers to work with their partner community. We've worked at Xero and Sim7 as co-founders in our previous roles, in sort of leadership roles, and the partner tools that we had available to us, in particular those that applied to the accounting community and the bookkeeping community, and in general the tech advisor community, weren't that great. A lot of them served the software provider, but not so much the actual partners in terms of adding value. And there were many other things to it as well, but that was one of the headlines. So we created what was essentially, it kind of falls into the bracket of a partner relation management / channel management solution. It's a way for software providers to manage all of their channel partners. But the important hook line here and strategy from our perspective is that it enables them to work more closely with more partners in a more automated way, hence increasing the volume, hence delivering better outputs for their customer base and their prospect base. The other side of the coin is a tool that's specifically developed for the tech advisor community, which is called AppVentory. So AppVentory is a tool that, I guess, it allows bookkeepers, accountants, again, tech advisors in general, to be probably a little bit more proactive around their approach to tech advisory, in that they can, rather than waiting for a business to sort of wave their hand in the air and say, I'm on fire, help me, I need some advice. It can be more of a proactive approach to identifying opportunities within your client base where people could maybe be doing things in a better way. And that's through discovery of what they're using, what they're spending, user analytics in terms of, are the users logging in frequently? Do they like the tool? Do they need additional training? So it kind of it sort of automates that full scope discovery process around your entire client base, and then gives you some really nice benchmarks to work from in terms of collecting data centrally. If you've got 1,000 clients, 2,000 clients within the firm, or even if you've got 50, it's quite nice to know, what are my clients using? What do they like? What do they dislike? Where are opportunities for me to generate more revenue? Where are the opportunities for me to help my clients to do a better job of what they're doing, whatever that might be. So yeah, in a nutshell, maybe too big nutshell, that's kind of the two products.
No, that was a great. Of the two products, which one's your favorite?
So full transparency, I'm probably one of the only people in my business that is not an ex-accountant and didn't work for Xero. My background is at Sim7 in inventory management and ERP, so I've been exposed to the accounting components and integrations to the products like Xero and QuickBooks and others are available. But yeah, so I think as a result of that, I'm probably more drawn to Channel Boost, just because I've lived that software provider life and I can relate to it more probably. But there's a lot of excitement around AppVentory because it's of the two, it's one that could very much achieve sort of product-led growth because it's a more simple tool. At least that's certainly the intention. So yeah, in terms of like opportunity for revenue, that can scale very, very quickly for us as an organization. But also, it's not just about the revenue in terms of adding value into the ultimate mission and North Star of what we're trying to achieve. It's something that we can deliver on that pretty quickly as well. So yeah, it's difficult, isn't it? Trying to pick between your, it's like two children, which one's your favorite?
That was going to be my next. That was going to be my next question. Yeah. And as soon as you actually answered the first question with a choice, I was like, oh, definitely got a favorite.
Well,
How many kids do you have, Owen, and which one's your favorite?
Oh, crikey. So I do have two children, and I love them both equally.
Yeah.
The best answer I've had to that is the one that's annoying me least that day is my favorite.
No, they do. They both do a pretty equal job of that, to be fair.
Again, if it's not too personal, how old are your kids?
6 and 8.
6 and 8. That's a good age. That's a good age. It's a good age.
Yeah, they're kind of moving into that. They've fully moved into that phase where I feel like as a dad, I can probably be more, useful, I suppose. When they're very young, they were, attached to their mum, and you kind of feel surplus to requirement a little bit in the background sometimes as a dad, and you sort of trying to be useful in different ways, but they're all about mummy in that first year, maybe 2 years. So now they're a little bit older. It's you can start teaching them how to ride a bike, teach them how to swim, get out playing football with them. I tried to play golf with them, but it's hard enough trying to get them to play football.
So with the 6 and an 8-year-old, that sounds like a hazard, giving them golf clubs.
Well, I mean, I think it would be if they were boys, but with girls, they tend to be. They're probably a little bit more
Sensible.
they're just a bit
Boys are
more.
idiots.
Yeah, they are. I look at some of my friends with boys, and I do feel very lucky to be a father of girls. Let's put it that way, because they just go mental. It's absolutely wild.
I know boys are idiots because I, as a grown man in his mid-30s, see the things the little boys do, understand the lack of thought that went into it, and go, I would have done that too, to be honest. That's how I know boys are idiots. The only reason why I don't act like idiots is because I'm an adult. And social constraint.
The light in me sees the light in you.
Yeah, 100%. I can see everything you've done. Like, that's what I'd have done. That's the move I'd have make. Good job, lad. Good job. Yeah, it's facts.
I've got a question for you. This is a question for both of you, actually. This is something I've been pondering on. It's quite a deep question, actually. What is the most valuable thing that your kids have taught you? And if you want to have a bit of a think about it, we can come back to it later and process it away, tick away in the back of the brain.
Yeah, for me, it's not necessarily something that I don't know whether it fits the category, but I'm very much. Probably everyone would say this, but I'm a completely different person now to what I was when I had my first child at 26. I think it completely spins your priorities around when you're sort of young and in your early 20s, assuming you don't have children at that age. It's all about you, and you're quite selfish and self-centered generally, and you're that's just the way that it is, because you are the most important thing in your world. But then when you have children, you're no longer the most important thing in your world, they are. So it kind of shifts your entire mindset around, I don't work for money for me so I can go on holiday. I work for money for my family so that I can provide for them. It's like that kind of mindset shift. So I don't know whether that's something that they've taught me. It's certainly a way that they've changed me then.
That's a really good question. And I was going to give you a jokey answer, but I'll give you a serious answer.
I was going to give a serious answer, so you can give you a jokey one if you want.
Having a child has awoken the paternal instincts in me. Okay, before having my daughter, I did not care about kids, did not care about other people's kids. Funny enough, kids liked me. Like, I could play with them and it'd be great, but I just no interest. Now that I've got my daughter, like, I can walk around and I'll be in the supermarket and I can see another parent with a kid. It just brings me a smile, right? I smile at kids now, and it's nice, and I feel like a sense of duty to some of these kids sometimes, and if I can be a help, I will. I would never have done that before. I would not have cared less if some other kid was crying, honestly. But now I do.
Do you end up finding yourself watching the Facebook Reels or Instagram or TikTok, whatever it is that you might be using, and you come across those baby videos that they have where it's like a baby laughing hysterically or something? I find myself looking at, like, my Reels have changed somewhat.
It knows.
It does know, doesn't it?
It knows.
So all I get is like pictures, like videos of like little puppies and dogs being saved and children and giggling children, and that's my entire thing. I'm like, I'm scrolling through. It's like, come on, give me something on golf or football, I need some man points here. Give me something, macho.
I can fix it for you. We can become friends on Instagram. I'll send you reels of the darkest humors and memes, and that will change your algorithm so you get pure filth in your feed. Sound good?
Yeah, I need something. I need more man points in there.
Sorry, Tony, you didn't answer your own question.
No, so I had a fascinating conversation with a gentleman in our space who you're probably both familiar with, Stephen Paul. So I know him from back from my 0 days. We not spoke for years, and we were having a chat this week about other stuff. The first half an hour of that chat was a really highlight of the week for me in terms of like just fascinating conversation between two guys, and we were talking about like children and this topic, which is where the question came from, which is why I mentioned it. But we were talking about the idea of like peace and like how you get more peace in your life, right? And it made me think about my daughter, and like she is happy, right? She just loves the world, and like she's obviously everything's new and she's learning lots of stuff, which is really cool. But like I was looking at it and I was like, I'm sure that is because, for a bunch of reasons to do with novelty and, you know, not having been ground down by social media and the world and politics and all that sort of stuff outside. But like, the thing I look at is just like, she lives almost 100% of her time in right now. Whereas like, we're not very good at that as adults. Like, I spend an awful lot of my time living in the future, and I used to spend an awful lot of my time living in the past. And then that swung completely wildly in the opposite direction. So that's the thing that she's taught me, is to try and live in the now more, because it seems to be working for her. She's pretty happy. So I'm like, yeah, actually that seems like that's a pretty good idea. It seems to correlate quite strongly with like happiness and peace. So yeah. And she's also taught me that at 41 I could definitely acquire a new nickname or two. So she called me Dragon the other day, which I thought was quite nice.
I've been called worse.
So I'm trying to establish the nicknames of Dragon and Nighthawk from Step Brothers, but at the moment I am Dragon and also Nighthawk. She does not want to acquire the nickname of either of those two, but she's quite happy to call me both of them. So yeah.
Marcus Batson, Tony's from the future.
I don't know what he means. Maybe I am.
Is that Nighthawk? Are they from? Is it from the Avengers or something? Are they
Step Brothers? Step Brothers. Who knows? Maybe he'll explain. Maybe he'll expand a little. Maybe what he's saying is that if I was from the future, would that make me younger now? Maybe.
Definitely wouldn't, buddy. Sorry. Time and tide wait for no man. It is what it is. Speaking of useful visuals, that's why I pulled this up earlier. Sorry. Owen, how long ago was this picture taken?
That was 2 years ago.
All right. Cool. Just
it's gone downhill. What are you trying to say? It's gone downhill swiftly.
That's not what I said. I
thought he was going to say you look younger now than you did in that picture, but you know.
I've lost quite a bit of weight since then, to be fair. But yeah, that was actually taken on a mountain in Santorini. 2.5 years ago.
Did you walk up that mountain?
I did not. That's actually the balcony from the hotel that I was staying at the time.
Ah, okay. I like that.
Nice. When you worked at Sin 7, what was like the highlight of being there?
Well, I mean, Sin 7 was a really big brand in obviously New Zealand. That's where it started, and then it started to become a big brand in the US, North America, because that's now where they're headquartered. I think when I came into the role, I was one of the first to join as part of the UK team. And yeah, I think probably my biggest achievement was the speed to, 1,000 customers in the UK. Like with fairly modest resource, given that we were almost on opposite time zones to everyone else, a small team of me and varied over the course of the years, but a small team of me and maybe 4 to 5 others that were in the country. We achieved a lot with relatively little. I think is the best way. And I was very proud of the team that I built there. Probably more so than the results. I think I've always, as a leader, been very passionate about creating a culture, regardless of how big that workplace is. Creating a culture of people who just like their job, that like just want to turn up and enjoy what they're doing and enjoy the company of the people that they're doing it with. I think like if you can go on a joint adventure, sort of Lord of the Rings style, I think it makes it a little bit more fun. So that was probably my biggest achievement. Was beyond the good results we had from a revenue perspective. I think it was actually building a team that were very content, very stable, and very good at what they did.
Are you a Lord of the Rings fan?
I am.
Okay, who's your favorite character?
Well, in the spin-off series that they've just done, I quite like the Sauron character.
The bad guy?
The bad guy, yeah. I just think he's a really good actor, and I just think, I just really enjoyed watching that. So, yeah, probably him.
You heard it here first, people. Owen Burley likes the bad guy in Lord of the Rings. Rings of Power, right? That's the show, isn't it?
That's right, yeah.
It's a good show.
Feels like a very appropriate segue for your superhero question, mate.
My superhero
your
question?
movie. Your movie character question.
Oh yeah, okay. Thank you. Thank you for reminding me. Owen, if there were one fictional character from a movie or a TV show that you could just punch in the face with all your strength and there'd be no repercussions, who would it be?
Who would I want to punch in the face?
Okay. Just to be clear, character, not the actor or actress. That's
Yeah.
so I didn't specify that with someone one time, and they went all in on one person. I was like, all right, calm down.
I don't know, probably the Hulk, just so that, you know, I mean, you're never going to get a free swing at the Hulk without repercussions, right? So I feel like that would be a pretty decent one. You probably break your hand in the process.
Test your metal as well. Like,
Yeah,
what have I got in the locker here? You know.
Yeah, I've been
So in
going to
this
the gym the
scenario,
last couple of months.
So in this scenario, the Hulk has agreed to let you hit him in the face, and he won't get angry and retaliate, right?
Well, even if he does get angry, I've got like a bubble of protection around me, a force field, if you like. So there's nothing that he would be able to do to retaliate. So I guess I'm that guy that pokes the bear. So that's a
really ballsy answer. I like it. That's next level. Like everyone's been like, "Oh, this character kind of annoys me. They're kind of silly." You went for a grade A
Game of Thrones,
grade A superhero that would break your hand if you took a swing. Let's be honest.
Yeah, probably. Yeah, well, definitely. Yeah,
I like it.
Very good.
Unless you punch him before he turns into the Hulk, and then you get to watch him turn into the Hulk.
Yeah,
so cool. Yeah.
Because I reckon if you knock out Bruce Banner quick enough, he won't transform, right?
No, I'm pretty sure he would transform. Yeah,
he would. Okay. You said that with certainty. Are you like a Marvel kind of person?
I'm a big Marvel fan as well. I don't know that I'm painting the best picture of myself here to anyone who might be watching, but big Marvel fan. And when Bruce Banner gets like shot, for example, he turns into the Hulk and it like spits the bullet out. So yeah, I imagine my punch would be less effective than a bullet.
First and foremost, I appreciate your comic book lore. Thank you. Second of all, we listen, but we don't judge. If you're a comic book geek, that's fine. I'm a comic book geek. Yeah.
No judgment.
Yeah. Well, I'm sure there's plenty of judgment, but yeah, I like what I like.
That's it.
If you were a biscuit, what kind of biscuit would you be that accurately portrays your personality and why? But don't just pick your favorite biscuit.
Well, now I can't stop thinking about a chocolate digestive because I love chocolate digestives and I can't eat them at the minute. But I can't stop thinking about chocolate digestive. I'm not sure how I can relate that to being me.
It's quite a tricky question, actually. I still haven't really got an answer beyond chocolate hobnob because it's my favourite biscuit.
I'd probably say that I am just a lukewarm, standard, plain digestive biscuit. You know, when I go out for a curry, I get a korma. When I go out for a Chinese, I'll probably just get egg fried rice and noodles and nothing. I don't tend to sort of go in too dangerously on foods.
Yet you wanted to punch the Hulk in the face.
Thank you,
yes, they're quiet ones you gotta watch.
Couldn't tell I was going to say it as well, lass. Yeah, like you might be some basic biscuit. You got some kind of coating on the underside that people can't see, or some raisins, something in there that's like, nah, I'm gonna flip this thing.
Yeah,
just knows when to drop the turbo, you know.
I'm a plain digestive with rat poison nestle in the middle. That's it.
The best thing is these get recorded, and I might just pull that out as a soundbite just for future reference. I don't know how Brandy at AppVentory would feel about that.
Yeah.
I don't know how good it is for marketing or not, but there we go.
Influx of demos inbound.
You know how we were talking about irreverent professionalism at all times, and we weren't really sure how we were going to achieve it. I think we're doing it. I've got a question that I like to ask. I'm really fascinated by people that have gone from being an employee to being a business owner, which is a transition that you've made fairly recently, Owen. So, what are your observations about that shift? How have you found it? If there was somebody who's listening who's thinking about doing it, like, what would you say to them about how to know whether it's for you or not?
So the first thing I would say is that going into it, everyone told me that it was difficult, but nothing can actually prepare you for how difficult it is. And I don't mean difficult in terms of the work that needs to be done. I mean, that's challenging, but any job can be challenging irrespective of where you are within the organization. There's always going to be things that challenge you. I think more so it's the it's remaining steady in times of everyone questioning what you're doing and saying that's not the way it should be done. And I think it's if you've got a belief in something and you want to start that as your own business, or do that with other people in the same way that I've done, I think it's just important to hold fast and believe in yourself. I know that's probably a bit, cliche, and everyone would say that, but it's actually very true, because the working hard part, if you work hard at whatever you do in life anyway, then you've got the basics of what is required, because it is difficult in a startup environment. It's very, very challenging not to be swayed from your ultimate mission of what you're trying to achieve with whatever it is that you're doing. So yeah, I think that's probably the thing that I think also, I'm in an organization now that's grown to probably about 80 people globally. I think we've got now. I'm one of a few, and for a long time I was the only employee of Coachbar in the UK, and that's incredibly lonely, actually. It's incredibly difficult to, especially when people are on very different time zones to you. It's probably one of the biggest challenges that I've had, especially in that first year, of keeping yourself motivated, keeping yourself in the loop, managing those late night, early morning calls within your overall sort of time management within the day.
And you've got the US and Australia and New Zealand as well, right? So they have shut down for the Friday by the time you start on a Friday, so that's Friday gone. And then the US kicks in at what lunchtime is it? 12 to 2?
Yeah, maybe just after that, so at 2 or 3 o'clock in the afternoon, somewhere around there. Yeah, depending on where they're located. But so yeah, that was probably one of the biggest things to get used to, and the biggest challenges. Now that'll be different, obviously, depending on what type of business you've got. But if you're going into something global, yeah, I think just give yourself grace is probably the best piece of advice that you'll have maybe days, maybe even weeks where you are just off your game and you're maybe not as productive as you could be, or you're feeling a bit low. I think the most important thing to do in those scenarios is to, go have a round of golf, go take yourself to the gym, just go out for a walk, go see some friends. Like, there's a lot to be said about looking after yourself and putting yourself in a position where your mental well-being is, not just for yourself, but for your family and for those around you. Because if you're not good in those areas, then you're not going to be good for the business, the organization, in terms of representing it. So, yeah, that's probably something that I learned, because I kind of come from that old English sort of philosophy that, you've got to grind yourself into the ground, and, you've got to sweat blood and, everything else to show that you're working your hardest and doing your very best. But you very quickly burn out, and then actually what you're producing is utter crap, to be honest with you. If you're approaching it from that mindset, eventually you reach a point of fatigue. So there's no harm in you taking time, managing your calendar across the day appropriately and across the week appropriately, so that you can find that balance. Because if you're working in an office and you've got that kind of environment, if you count up the minutes and the hours that you spend in the day going and having a chat with one of your colleagues, the drink cooler sort of conversations and going out for lunch and all of that sort of stuff, that adds up, and you don't get that working from home. So you have to make that time up in different ways.
Do you think, going back to what you said about old English mentality and having to grind yourself into the dust kind of thing, do you think that's maybe changing with younger generations? Because presumably you've had to hire people. Do you think that is a different thing for different ages or generations, or do you think it's just like becoming less of the norm?
I don't know whether it's necessarily based on generations. I think it's based on the individual and their experiences. Maybe there's an argument to be said that younger generations have maybe been exposed to working from home, and that's maybe the norm for them, and they're more familiar with it, and therefore they have a better balance. Whereas people of an older generation maybe haven't had as much exposure to that, or maybe aren't as accustomed to that, and maybe more of a transition because they're used to doing things a certain way and they have to change. So I think it might be tied to generations as a result of that, but ultimately it's I've worked with people who are much older than me that have adapted to it brilliantly in the same breath. So it's not a hard and fast rule. Yeah, I suppose the younger generation, I don't want to I don't want to give any generation a bad name or like misrepresent them, because I'm 35. I don't want to speak to the 22, 23, 24-year-olds out there, but I think probably as a culture, and this could be a divisive comment, but as a culture in the UK, we're probably over the last couple of decades have been moving more to a, feeling like you're owed something rather than having to earn it. That's probably what my parents would say about the way they see the world. And as you get older, that seems to be the mentality that you tend to take on. These new Gen Z, oh my goodness, and you hear about that sort of thing. But I don't know that I've seen that firsthand, though. I think it's just based on the individual.
Fair enough.
Do you know what the shift? I was listening to a podcast yesterday, and they were talking about this concept of like changing approaches to work through the generations and how it's shifting. And I quite liked the take on it, which was that, like, back 2 or 3 generations ago, it was very much just you had a job and that was it, right? And you did your job, and your purpose was intrinsic within that job. Didn't really matter what the company's purpose was, to be honest. It was just that you did your job, right? You turned up, you did your job, grafted hard, provided for your family, and that was fine. And then over generations, and it shifts more and more each generation that we go through, that the mission and the purpose, and trying to find, like, right, which mission and purpose do I want to put myself in behind, because we just got so much more information available to us now than we used to have. So that type of information about being purpose and mission led and kind of value led is a lot more available across a lot more companies that you could potentially go and choose from. And therefore, as the generations pass by, we become more aware that is something that is available to us, and therefore the job is part of that decision, rather than it being just, I have a job, I go do the job, and then I come home, and then that's the end of it. I want to feel something more connected to what I'm doing, because I've got so much more choice and opportunity, which I quite liked as a sort of evolving position on work, right?
Yeah, I mean, I can't really disagree with that, to be fair. I think that's a fair way of assessing it. I think people, I think people now are in a world of internet and a world of opportunity. It's a different game from the game that it used to be, in the way that you you just turn up for a paycheck, and you got to do your time, if you like, and you can actually do something and have it be a passion. So yeah, I think there's that's certainly what I was always keen for. And it was funny when I was hiring for Sin 7, going back to that point, people don't grow up as kids saying, oh, I want to work in inventory management and ERP systems as a solution provider, as a solutions consultant. So I think passion can sometimes be there from a young age, and you might want to be a vet, or you might want to be an astronaut, or whatever it might be, whatever your passion is, your dream is. And some may achieve those dreams. For everyone else, you're going to have to find your way through things. And actually, what I learned was that when I fell into software, and I very much fell into software accidentally, about a decade ago now, it was actually a blessing in disguise, because you can, if you're treated well by your employer, and you find something that you genuinely just find quite interesting, the two sort of create this whirlwind of hot and cold pressure spinning around and creating something beautiful, that actually you don't see it as work anymore, you see it as a passion. And so if you can try and instill the right environment for people coming into a role that allows for that, then I think you're onto a winner.
I think the passion comes second for most people in most jobs, right? We're not all, like, if I could have done anything, I'd play rugby for England, but I just flat out wasn't good enough to do that, right? So, and wasn't in the right environments to have made the most of my talents in order to have played at the highest level that I could have done, which wasn't internationally, without some major change in the course of my rugby ability. But that said, like, this idea of, like, get stuck into something, and you might not like it, but you also might, and then that might become a passion, rather than it being like the passion was first. I think this guy I went to school with, and he just wanted to be a pilot. That was it. He always wanted to be a pilot, and he became a pilot for EasyJet. I never had that thing, and but I love what I do now. I love the world that I operate in, and I think it makes a lot of meaningful change when it's done right. I'm just looking at Marcus's comment.
Things jump in.
Do you want to read it out?
Sorry. Marcus Batson, been seeing and hearing good things about AppVentory. Knowing what apps to use is half of the battle. What tips do you have for firms that find introducing and selling it to the client to be the blocker? Would also be cool to hear DeeRod's tips too.
I'm not going to take any offense at the fact that I've been completely left out of this question, Marcus. None. I'm going to give my thoughts anyway.
Okay. Who would like to go first? Owen, would you like to go first on this one? I'll leave it up so you can read it as well. There you go.
Yeah. So, what tips do you have for firms that find introducing and selling to the client to be the blocker? So, I think it comes down to having a proven process in place for how you're executing on that. I think one of the things that I've seen that's maybe lacking in a lot of firms out there is that standardized process where you can actually make it repeatable. If it's not repeatable and it's a highly customized process on a customer by customer basis, then you're really going to struggle to have adoption internally, as on top of many other issues that come from that in terms of having inconsistent processes with your clients. There's a lot of risk associated with that because are you picking the right tools? Are you doing it at the right time? Is the customer having a good experience? So I think probably the first thing is to actually take a step back and look at, these are the collection of tools that we like, that we know fairly well. And this is, that's the framework, that's the starting point. The next step is, okay, how are we going to start a conversation around this? Is it embedded as part of an existing service? Is it a new approach, completely new approach? Which team is responsible to that? What tools are being used to actually engage with those clients? And then from there, what does that first engagement look like? Is it a free 30-minute consultation? Is it tied into a wider sort of business advisory piece? So I think, Dale will know a lot more around sort of this area than I do, but certainly I think that the first thing is you have to have a nailed down process that's repeatable and scalable, that delivers low risk and high efficiency to customers that obviously then get a good experience out of it, and it can then be distributed throughout the organization effectively.
Oh, and you said all the good stuff that I was going to say. Similar thing. Right, what tips do you have for firms who find interest in selling to their client to be the blocker? Or if you're talking about apps in general, just apps not selling to clients, the blocker is them not being on some kind of cloud native software, right? But generally speaking, yes, you can use desktop, yes, you can use spreadsheets, but that's kind of the bar, I would say, for apps and integration. You've got to be on cloud. Owen, you mentioned having a system and a process. I'll take that one step further. Having a sales function or process. There are a lot of accountants who are afraid to sell to their clients. Oh, I don't want to bother the client this time of year. They're busy, or we haven't done the accounts yet. But the mentality shift should be for a firm is actually, I'm trying to do the best for my client. Me suggesting an app or service isn't me selling them per se, that the bad sales that we're used to. It's me going, actually, I think this could help you. Right? Whether they're an SME turning over 100K and they just want an extra day to stay with their family, or if they're multi-million-pound company and they want to make more profit for whatever reason, like us having the ability to go to that client, I think this will help you. That's what sales really is, and having that mindset shift on what sales actually is. So I think that's the biggest blocker. It's not having people on native cloud apps for their finance function, and people being willing to actually sell to their clients. Tony, you weren't asked, but I'll ask you because I like your smiley face.
Thanks.
What's your opinion?
Thank you. So my thoughts are, I'd echo what you guys have said.
Just going to mute him just to annoy him a little bit. I'm sorry, I'm a menace. As you were, buddy, as you were.
My thing is, so don't, you need to have a problem that you're trying to solve. Don't take a solution and go looking for a problem, right? And I think that it is important to really have understood the workflow and then to be able to put the apps over the top and understand the problems or the opportunities within that workflow, rather than it being a case of I've got this shiny new app that's giving me a kickback, or that is like the one that everyone's talking about, and therefore we're going to go and try and, as Dale said, actually proactively sell it, rather than it being a case of this is just a no-brainer. you're uploading invoices by hand, you should use Dext, or whatever it might be. The other thing I would say is that it's important to, like you said, you're doing them a disservice by not putting it in front of them if there is a genuine need there and a genuine problem that is being solved, and having that in your mind does really help you to frame those conversations and not feel bad about it. The other thing that I would say is like you in order to put that piece of software in front of them and to have that kind of conversation, you really kind of need to know that bit of software pretty well. So that is either having worked closely with the app itself to really get a proper understanding of how it works and be able to answer the edge case questions to some extent, using it in your own practice, or having used it with other clients that enable you to talk about it. But like when you go into that conversation with the mind of like, I know that there's a problem here, I know that this will solve the problem, and I genuinely know how to use this bit of kit, you will present completely differently to like, here's this new shiny thing that I picked up at Account X and I'm just trying to sell it on to you because X person gives me biggest commission, or whatever that process is. So so they would be my biggest 3 tips for that process, right? And like, you won't sell to everyone. Like, work out who your audience is and work out who it is that you're trying to sell, and spend as much time. If I had 8 hours to chop a tree down, I'd spend 6 hours sharpening the axe. Like, the analogy here is like, if you had 8 hours to look for your client, spend 6 hours working out who your ideal client is and try and get in front of them, not just try and blanket sell to everybody. So if it's not your existing customer base and it's new folks that you're trying to sell to. So yeah, they would be my tips.
I'm surprised. We said the word sales so many times in the last 5 minutes that one of our
James isn't here.
Yeah, hasn't he? Hasn't piped up, and James Sundin of Represent.
I was actually thinking that as you mentioned that, like, sales it can be a bit of a dirty word. It has negative connotations around it, right? And a lot of accountants that I've spoken to probably wouldn't profess to be salespeople, and that would maybe be where they are concerned around whether or not they're able to do this type of thing. And I think what I would say to that is, some of the best salespeople that I have employed throughout my career came from a technical background or a support background, actually, because people do not like to buy from people. Sorry, people don't like to be sold to, they like to buy from people, right? So I think the education piece is so much more important than anything else. And if you have a good framework and structure around that in the way that you're introducing it and educating on it, to Tony's point, it should just be a no-brainer come the end of that cycle. So I wouldn't worry too much about all these sort of sales methodologies and that sort of stuff. Like, you don't have to be a salesperson. You might be a tech advisor or an accounting, whatever your role is within the firm. I wouldn't get caught up on thinking that you have to start selling something. You just need to know it and then to be able to talk about it, and just start there.
Yeah. To those people listening, not watching, the reason why we're laughing is because Sam Green's come into the comments. I sometimes say sales 3 times in the mirror to see if James appears. Back to your point as well, and I've got a philosophy. I think we all sell, we just don't realize it. Have you ever been on a date and worn a nice shirt? The nice shirt is marketing, sales is the talking. Have you convinced a small child to eat some vegetables or fruit they don't want to eat? That's sales. Like, you've had to negotiate or convert that kid into your way of thinking, or even compel them to do so. We've all just experienced bad sales. No one likes being like, hey, buy my stuff, or it's all about me, or no one likes that. Like you say, people buy people. So 100% agree.
They do. We're all in sales all of the time to some degree or other, right?
We have been very deep and serious for far too long, so my brain is going to ask another silly question. Owen, if you could eat... Wait, do you eat meat?
I do.
Good. If you could eat any meat for the rest of your life, one meat for the rest of your life, forsaking all others in any form or variance, what meat or animal are you choosing?
I'm salivating heavily. I just want to make everyone aware of that. I'm very hungry right now. So I would probably go, beef, really, isn't it? But I'd like to say salmon, but the reality is it's going to be beef because you can do a lot with it.
Yeah, that's a good answer. Also, like, I used to say chicken because I thought it was the most versatile, but you're right, beef is more versatile, and just a good quality, thick ribeye, medium rare, like, or well done if you're one of those kind of people. You can't beat it. Oh, look,
And
Sia's here.
and as we talked about, mate, you can chicken fry a steak, so you're kind of covered, right? They do that in the States, chicken fried steak.
And I've never
fried.
done spaghetti bolognese without beef mince. Maybe lamb mince once, but like I can't imagine.
Oh, I've got a funny story about doing it with turkey mince once upon a time.
Oh, it's
not
terrible.
knowingly. Oh, it's so bad. I thought, is this mince gone off or something? What's going on here? And then looked at the packet. It was turkey mince. Ruined my day.
It's the worst.
I can imagine.
It's the worst meat, turkey. Yeah.
Unless it's a turkey for Christmas, like turkey mince is just should never be a thing.
The worst. It's quite nice smoked. The worst meat that I've ever eaten is elk. I had it in Canada. I had an elk burger, and I'm still to this day am fairly sure it had gone off because it just tasted like, like when you were a kid and your lunchbox got left in the bottom of your bag all summer, and then you opened it and it had gone like that penicillin smell of of mold when you open something. It tasted like that, and I was like, that can't be what elk tastes like, that, because no one would eat it. It's just like, I've got a fairly broad palate. The only thing I really actively dislike is coriander, and that's because I think I have the gene. But yeah, it was truly unpleasant, and I would like to try it again at some point just to see whether it was off or whether it was just penicillin taste. It was so bizarre.
I like the analogy. I think we can all relate to that. I think we've all left our lunchbox in our bag for maybe a week or two, left the orange in there maybe, and it's like, it's not quite gone, but it's like that musky, gross, warm.
I do this every weekend with my daughter. We get caught up in swimming, and then you just shove the bag to the side. You come to it Monday morning, you're like, oh no, I have to deal with this now.
Basically, if the food gets removed from the bag from my daughter's snack box, that's because my wife did it. So if ever there's a scenario where she has relied upon me to do it, it doesn't get done, generally speaking.
Wake up on Monday morning, the banana's sort of grown legs and it's crawling around.
Yep.
Owen, we've asked you a lot of questions and you've humoured us very nicely. Do you have any questions for Tony or myself? Tony or me? Tony and I? You know what I meant. The two of us.
What's the most amazing place that you've ever been?
Oh, wow, that's a really good question. I'm going to borrow that, by the way. The most amazing place I've ever been.
Oh, when you've just stood there and you've gone, this is it.
I've got a couple. So maybe I've got like a top three, perhaps. So I think the top one will always be Everest Base Camp, partly because it's just incredible, partly because it's the highest I've ever been, partly because that's where I proposed to my wife. Tricked her into marrying me with making her delirious with the altitude, 5,500 meters above sea level. The Whitsundays are truly incredible to see at low tide. But one of the ones that really got me was the Taj Mahal. So I have this sort of theory, and this is probably harks back to Marcus's earlier comment about the bag of nails and living in the future. But I have this thing. So my wife and I quit our jobs and went traveling for the best part of a year around the world and saw loads of cool stuff. And we went to lots of places, and I couldn't help but feeling like quite often when you get there that they're not quite as impressive as you think that they're going to be, because you've seen them in the best filtered light on Instagram already, and you get there and you're like, is that it? Like, kind of like, so people always say about the pyramids, like they're right next to Cairo, and you think they're in the middle of the desert, and they're not. They're actually right next to it. But the Taj Mahal was the opposite to that. So we got in some ways quite lucky. So as we arrived in, I forget the name of the place where the Taj Mahal is, but it monsooned as we arrived there. So our guide said, well, let's go and have lunch while the rain passes. And it was literally like there were just 2 feet deep in the bottom of some of the sort of like drives down into the hotels along the road. And of course, what had then happened was, as we walked into the Taj Mahal, it opens out and the sun had come out, and there's all these little kind of like squares of lawn in front of the Taj Mahal, but they were all full of water. So it was reflecting back onto these little kind of puddles. The light was amazing, and then sort of reflecting back, and it just felt like you were in a film set. Like it was absolutely incredible. aside from the fact that my wife and I have this horrible thing wherever we go to a landmark, there's always scaffolding on it. There was a load of scaffolding on the Taj Mahal. So you've got these amazing pictures of it reflecting in the light on these impromptu puddles or ponds that weren't supposed to be ponds because they were just water-filled lawns. And then, of course, it was basically like walking around in a steam room as the 40-degree heat evaporated all the water from the monsoon. So it would just like drip it, but incredible. Yeah, it was absolutely incredible. It's always stuck in my brain as being something that vastly exceeded what I expected it to be, because it is I hope my cultural references are correct. It's a grave, and I expected it to be not that impressive, and it was incredible. So they're my top three. Right now, I could probably get a different three next time you ask me.
So following what Tony said, I'm going to pick a landmark moment for me. I have got some friends in Portland, Oregon, which is the northwest of America. And first of all, if you go into the forest, it smells like a pine air freshener, but obviously it's not. It's just the pine trees make that smell. It smells made like fresh, clean air. Second part of that, they have redwood trees up there, I think, or some kind of ancient tree that's, like 200 feet tall. And again, you see them in movies and you think, it's magnificent. There's one that we got to drive through. It was like 7 foot wide, right? So it's longer than the car. It's still alive because someone hollowed out. And it was 270 foot, some ridiculous height. And you just think, for context, I think that's something like 4 or 5 floors, right? If you had like 4 houses stacked on top of each other, like, so it's just like your mind doesn't fathom it, even though you've seen it on TV. That's pretty cool.
What about you, Owen?
I always, one thing that always springs to mind for me, and I've been very fortunate to go some really cool places, but the one that always sticks in my mind is I went to a ski resort called Le Cèze in the Alps, and there's nothing. I mean, you can go skiing anywhere, but the beautiful thing about where we were was that there was like a collection of mountains, which is the Alps. And the way that the weather had worked that day was that there was some low cloud, and we were on a glacier, so we were very high up above the cloud area, and you could sort of see all of these peaks of mountains as you looked across the horizon. But what was really amazing and what set it apart from all the other times that I've been skiing was that the clouds had actually collected as if there were a river between all of these mountains. And there was a gap between some of the mountains where the clouds were just cascading like a waterfall out of this gap. And we had this like snapshot view. And I was only about 18 at the time. I wish I'd been a bit older because I think I might have appreciated it a bit more. But I'll just always remember, I took a picture and I've lost it because I don't know that we had very fancy phones back then. So I think I took it on one of the old, Polaroid, wherever they are, cameras. And I've lost it, which I wish I hadn't, because it was one of the most amazing things I've ever seen. It because I think it's probably the closest thing to heaven that I've ever witnessed.
That's pretty cool. Cloud inversion is on my list of things to see.
Cloud inversion? What's cloud inversion? Is that what?
Where you're above the clouds and you can see the mountains peeking out the top of them. Yeah, that's what they call it. Have had a glimpse of it. Actually, I don't live anywhere near mountains, but there's a little kind of crest of like the edge of a sort of, it's hard to describe for those anyone's local to me, the Dunstable Downs or Ivinghoe Beacon. It's not that high, but you can basically see for like 50 miles. It just kind of happens that it's flat away from it, and I went up there one morning and they kind of got it, but it was only like 200 meters above sea level, not like up in the mountains, so it doesn't really technically count, I don't think. But yeah,
well, it depends on the weather system. Like even sometimes when you go out and there's like low hanging fog, in the right area with the right conditions, you don't have to be on the top of a mountain in the Alps, but it just happened that that's where I was, and that somehow made it more magnificent.
Very cool.
Taking it back a quick step, Marcus has joined in the comments, talking about the leftover lunch boxes. Marcus Batson, the worst one is protein shake bottles. You're correct. You leave those for a week, and that protein shake is fermented, and it's a horrible synthetic smell.
We've all binned one because of it, haven't we? Couldn't get it out of the plastic.
The actual bottle, the flavour, the taste is still in the bottle. Yeah.
I find it very difficult to actually get rid of that flavour. I'm ashamed to admit this, but actually, when I finished with my protein shake, because I put protein powder and creatine in it, and when I'm finished, all I do is just stick it under cold water, shake it, and then just pour it down the sink and do that twice, and then I'm done. It always has that lingering smell of sort of, protein shake. My protein shake, at least, it's not. Yeah, it doesn't smell the best. So, yeah.
Cool. On that note, I'm going to hit end stream. Owen, thank you for joining us. You've been a great guest. Everyone who's watched and commented, thank you for watching and commenting. And I think we won't see you next week because Tony and I are doing stuff. We're actually doing work for once. Is that right? Next week? No,
the week after next.
So we'll see you guys next week. The week after that, Tony and I'm going to be doing some work. And yeah, Owen, thanks again, man. It was awesome.
Great chat.